Hi to everybody. I welcome you all to our next module, that is preservation of meat. In this, the first topic that I'm going to deal is the chilling and supercooling of the meat. So by cold preservation, we can store the meat in the condition almost approaching in the natural state. That is, there is no much alternation in the appearance and the flavor. So in this method, we are not adding any substance, or we are not removing any substance. So almost in the natural state, we are maintaining the food materials. So that is why it is most widely accepted method of meat preservation. So let's see what are the factors that leads to spoilage of the meat or any food materials. One is reaction with oxygen and light. So this can lead to rancidity, especially when any food materials, the meat, if it contains more of fat, especially the unsaturated fats, when it reacts with the oxygens, it can lead to the rancid. Another is the physical stress or the abuse. When the pressure is more, especially we can see in some dried meat products, when the pressure is more, there is a chance for the food materials or the meat products to lose its texture. Another is inappropriate storage temperature can also deteriorate the quality of the meat or the food materials. Then we have the infestations by the insects, parasites and rodents. This is also will deteriorate the food qualities. Then we have the enzymes, that is which can lead to the autolytic degradation. The enzymes that is present in the food materials or the meat, it can also lead to the autolytic degradations. Then microorganisms. So this is another main factor which can lead to the spoilage, that includes the bacteria, yeast and the mold. So these enzymes this bacteria can also act on the food materials, and it can, because you know that meat or fish is having a very good source of all the nutrients that is required for the microorganisms. So microorganisms can multiply very fast in the meat products, and this is why the meat is highly a perishable food. Another is the gain or the loss of moisture, that can also deteriorate the meat quality. These are the few factors which I listed here, which can lead to the deteriorations of the meat or the food materials. So let's see what is the principles of low temperature method of preservation. So in the low temperature, there are two methods. One is chilling, another is freezing. Okay. So let's see what is the principle behind the low temperature method of preservation. So you know that the enzyme's activity is directly proportional to the temperature. So as the temperature increases, the microbial activities or the enzymes that is present in the food materials becomes more active. So that can lead to the spoilage. So what we are doing is, when you reduce the temperature, the enzymes activities is slowed down. So we are lowering down the enzymes activities of the microbes. So when the enzymes activities of the microbes is slowed down, its multiplication is slowed down. That is what happening in the low temperature method of preservation. Another is the autolytic degradations. That is, by reducing the temperature, the enzymes activity present in the food material is slowed down. So that will help to prevent or retard or slow down the autolytic degradations. So these are the two things that we use in the chilling method of preservation. Along with this too, during the freezing, what is happening is that we are crystallizing the water, the intercellular water or intracellular water is crystallized. So the water is not available for the microbes or the bacteria for the multiplication. So in freezing, the water not available for the bacteria for the biological function. So it will not able to absorb the nutrients that is required for the multiplication. So most of the bacteria will die when the temperature is minus 10 degree or lower. Most of the bacteria will die. In the freezing also, there is a complete immobilization of the systems, because once you crystallize the water, the bacteria cannot move easily. So they will not able to spread, and they will not able to multiply. That is the another reasons why you can extend the shelf life of the any food materials when you reduce the temperature lower and lower. So if you're going to minus 30 means the shelf life can be extended to a great extent, because almost all the water will be minus 30 to minus 40. Almost all 100% of the water will be get converted into ice. So this is the basic principles behind the low temperature of method of preservation. That is, we are reducing the enzymes activities, By reducing the enzyme activities of the microbes cannot multiply. Again, we are also reducing the enzymes activities of the food materials, so the autolytic degradation can be slowed down. In freezing, the water is converted into ice, or the crystallization of the water will be taking place. So the microbes will not able to move, or it will not able to absorb the nutrient required for their multiplications. So this is the basic principle behind the low temperature method of preservation. So let's see here. In the low temperature method of preservation, we are delay the bacterial growth. Since we are delaying the enzymes activities or slow down the enzymes activity, the bacteria cannot grow faster. Delay the biochemical reaction, that is autolytic degradation is delayed. So thereby we are enhancing the shelf life. That is what we do in the low temperature method of preservation. So for example, if you take chicken, if you keep it outside by 4 to 6 hours or 8 hours, it depends upon the initial microbial loads, it will get spoiled. But when you keep it in the refrigeration, we can store it for 3 to 4 days, because we are reducing the multiplication, we are reducing the rate of multiplication of the microbes, and we are also reducing the autolytic degradations. So here we are enhancing the shelf life of the meat and meat products at low temperature. We are just enhancing the shelf life. So how the shelf life is enhancement? So we have the different range of temperature you can see here. So there is a zone called as a danger zone. That is, it extends from 5 to 60 degrees centigrade. 5 to 60 degrees centigrade is called as a danger zone for any food materials. So here you can see is above 60, the multiplication of the microbes is stopped, or it will be totally removed by subjecting to a high temperature. And below 5 degrees centigrade also, the multiplication of the microbes is slowed down, or it is stopped. If you go to freezing temperature, no significant growth below freezing. So refrigeration temperature may allow slow growth of the spoilage bacteria. So since we are reducing the temperature, the enzyme activity will slow down, so the bacteria will multiply very slowly, and very few pathogens can grow. So here above 5 to 60 degree, we can see that many bacteria survive and some may grow. So rapid growth of the bacteria is seen from around say 15 to 60 or 50 degrees centigrade. So the danger zone will be extending from 5 degrees centigrade to 60 degrees centigrade, and this is the most dangerous zone. That is from 15 to 50 degrees centigrade is the most dangerous for any type of food materials, especially if they are having more water activity. This will spoil very fast in this range, because the bacteria will multiply very rapidly in this range of temperature, that is from say 15 to 50 degrees centigrade. So what we are doing in a chilling, we are creating a condition that will enhance the shelf life. So we are just creating a condition that will enhance the shelf life of the meat and meat products. That is the primary application of chilling. We are not stopping the spoilage, but the rate of spoilage is slowed down. So by reducing the rate of multiplication of the bacteria. So we can define that chilling is a process by which temperature of the meat and meat products is reduced close to 0 degrees centigrade. That is, we keep between 0 to 4 degrees centigrade, but above the freezing point of water, the freezing point of the meat. Okay, so we'll keep it above the freezing point of the meat, and it's close to the freezing point of the meat, but above the freezing point of meat, that is 0 to 4 degrees centigrade. So that is what we do in the chilling. So chilling and freezing tend to have a various temperature range. Okay, so we call it as mild chilling. Mild chilling means when the temperature is less than 10 degrees centigrade, or perhaps it's less than 15 degrees centigrade, which is somewhat below the ambient temperature. It's called as a mild chilling. Then refrigeration means we keep at 0 to 4 degree. Freezing means any temperature less than minus 18 or minus 10. It's actually a frozen storage temperature. Less than minus 18 degrees is normally called as a freezing temperature. So points to remember in the low temperature method of preservation. The chilling should be done as quick as possible, because delayed chilling drastically affect the quality. So if you are keeping at the danger zone, that is 5 to 60 degrees centigrade for more time, what happens is the microbes will multiply very fast, and that will affect the quality of the meat, or it leads to the spoilage or poisoning of the food materials. So we have to as quick as possible lower down the temperature, so that the bacteria will not multiply. So by lowering down the bacteria, delay the biochemical and the bacteriological spoilage and prolong the storage life of the meat. The quality of the chilled meat depends on the initial quality of the meat. That is, if the initial microbial load is more, then the spoilage will be faster. Okay. So we have to see all the hygienic measures should be taken. See that to see that the initial load of the food material or the meat or the carcasses is very less, so that we can extend the shelf life of the meat. The duration of the chilling and storage temperature will also affect the quality, but deteriorate chains are not completely stopped. So in the chilling, we are not stopping the spoilage or deteriorations. We are just prolonging the rate of spoilage. So instead of if you keep it at ambient temperature, it will spoil, but within 1 day, say for example, or 8 hours or 10 hours, like the chicken will spoil. But the same thing if you keep it in the refrigeration temperature, when you lower the temperature to 0 to 4 degrees centigrade, we are just extending the shelf lives to 3 to 4 days. So that is what we are doing in the chilling. So we should remember one thumb rule, that is the reaction rates. The rate of chemical reactions at 20 degree will be halved if the temperature is lower to 10 degree. So any reaction, any chemical reaction, this is a thumb rule. Okay, if the chemical reaction is reduced from 20 to 10 means it will be the rate of reactions will be slowed down to half of that. For example, if you say food can be stored at 20 degree for 2 days means at 0 degrees at 10 degrees centigrade it can be stored for 4 days. So at 0 degrees centigrade it can be stored for 8 days. So the rate of chemical reaction at 20 degree will be halved if the temperature is lowered to the same temperature, same reaction that is taking place at 20 degrees centigrade will be halved if it is stored at 10 degrees centigrade. I hope it's very clear. Here we are exploiting this by refrigerating meat to help slow down the microorganisms growth. So this is what we do in the low temperature method of process. So let's see the growth of microorganisms at chill temperature. So here this graph you can see here is the microbial growth and the time. So as the time goes, how the microbial growth is increasing as well. So here you see this is ambient temperature. You can see there is a small lag phase. Then there is a rapid log phase, which is very fast multiplication of the bacteria can be seen here. Then it comes to the stationary phase. But here you see the lag phase is very long and the log phase is also not going very steep, like it is going very slowly. Basically as the time increases also it goes very slowly. That is what we are doing in the so we are just extending the lag phase, and the log phase is also not very rapid, so we can keep the food material for a long duration. So the growth of the microorganism is slowed down. Chilling does not stop the microbial growth, it only slows down. That's what I told you. Here it is slowing down the microbial growth. Here you can see there is a fast multiplication of the microbial growth. The spoilage will be very fast in the ambient temperature, but in the chilling temperature you can see the microbes multiplication is very slow. So we are just extending, we are not stopping the microbial growth, we are just slowing down the microbial growth. So harmful microorganisms still be present and create food poisoning if ingested. So we should be very careful. The preliminary or the initial microbial load should be very less. So we have to follow all the hygienic measures so that we can keep it for a long durations. So advantage of chilling temperature is that rate of chemical reactions are reduced. This include enzymatic and oxidation reactions. Already we have talked it. Chilling slow the migration of the flavors. Migration of the flavors can be slowed down, and the water soluble vitamins are stabilized at chilling temperature. So chilling help to reduce the flavor loss, and it will also help to reduce the water soluble vitamins, loss of water soluble vitamins. So coming to the method of chilling, there are two methods of chilling, we can say. So coming to the method of chilling, there are two methods of chilling. One is chilling by ice and another is mechanical chilling. Let's see the properties of ice. So first is the latent heat of fusion of ice we have to see. So it is the amount of heat or amount of energy that is required to convert 1 gram of ice into water, 1 gram of water. Okay. So it approximately requires 80 calories per gram. So once the ice come in contact with the meat, it will start absorbing the heat from the meat and it will get melted to ice. So that is how it is removing the heat from the meat, so that the meat temperature is reduced to almost 0 degrees centigrade. So when the ice melts into water, when it comes in contact with meat and facilitate the cooling, that is what I told you. When ice melts, it will absorb the heat from the meat and temperature of the meat drops to almost 0 degrees centigrade. That is what happening in the chilling of meat using ice. So what is the advantages of using ice? Melting of the ice help to wash away the bacterial and contaminants. So whatever that is surface, if it is present, it will be washed away with the water. Ice is relatively cheap compared with other meat of preservations. It is used as a method of preservation for the short duration of transportations. So if you want to do transportation short durations, we can use ice as a media for cooling. We can do it. That is, we can put the meat in this insulated puff box, and you can put ice on that, or you can use the ice packs on that, and you can transport. Or you can do the freezing of the meat, and to maintain the cold chain, you can put the frozen meat inside this puff box, and you can use the ice packs or the ice. So other is the bulking. That is, when you want to transport, this is another cheap method of transportation of meat. Especially this is used for transportation of carcasses from the area. Say we want to transport for 4 hours or 5 hours duration. So this is a cheap method where we will be using the insulated vehicles. Okay, the carcass will be in the bottom. We'll put the ice. Then 1 or 2 layer of carcass will be put. After halving the carcass into half, it will be put. Okay, after halving the carcass into half, it will be put in the truck. Then ice will be put. So that is called as a bulking method of chilling. Bulking with ice we call. Okay. So that is also used when we don't have the refrigeration vehicle, because transportation using refrigeration vehicle is costlier. So we can also transport, but it is not recommended. But we can do it for a short duration of transportation, say 4 hours or 5 hours for transportations of the carcasses from one slaughterhouse to the meat processing unit. We can do that also using the ice. Flushed ice you can use. That is called as a bulking method. Okay. What is the disadvantage of chilling by ice? The lower temperature is attained very slowly. Another is long storage result in discoloration. So if you put it in the ice, most of the myoglobin and the hemoglobin, which are water soluble, will be washed away. The color of the meat will become pale. That will be one. Well, the surface of the meat became moist and unattractive. The pressure developed on the meat affect the texture. That's especially that we can see in the bulking method of chilling. Bulking method of chilling, we can also, the more pressure will be developed on the meat surfaces or on the meat, which will affect the texture of the meat also. So these are the disadvantages of chilling by ice. The requirement of ice for chilling of meat. Okay, so how much quantity is required to chill the meat? Okay, so the quantity of ice depends upon the meat temperature, specific heat of the meat products. Okay, what is the specific heat? Again, that will also affect the quantity of ice that required. Quantity of meat and duration of transportation. So if the quantity is more, the duration of the transportation is more, then we have to put more ice. So theoretically, if we say 1 part of ice is sufficient to chill 3 part of meat, but coming to the practical point of view, it is my experience, because when I worked in one of the meat plant, we used to transport the carcasses. During that time, we used to put 1 part of ice to 1 and 1.5 part of the carcasses. So for every 1 kg, 1.5 kgs of carcasses, we have to put approximately 1 kg of ice. So that is practically the quantity that is required. But theoretically, if you take 1 part of ice is sufficient to 3 part of meat. So coming to the mechanical refrigeration system, this is the most widely used method in nowadays in the meat industries. Here, the meat and the carcass are kept in the chill room or the chamber. So this is a chill room or the chamber where we'll keep the meat or the carcass will be kept, and the air is blown at the speed of 0.5 to 0.75 meter per second. So at that speed will be blowing, and the temperature of the room will be maintained around 0 to 4 degrees centigrade is maintained. And the relative humidity is very important. We have to maintain around 90 to 92%. If it is more than 92%, it will favor the mold growth or the fungal growth will be favored. If it is less, means the shrinkage loss or the chilling loss will be more, which will again affect the loss of moisture is loss of money. So we have to be very careful. So the relative humidity that we maintain is around 90 to 92%. So let's see what is the difference between the mechanical versus ice chilling is that. The time required for chilling is less. Here the time required for the chilling is more. The better keeping quality compared to lower keeping quality, shrinkage loss is around 2 to 3%, or generally we say 1 to 2% or 3%. Like here it is almost 8%. So you can see the shrinkage loss is more in the ice chilling. Appearance of the meat is better because bloom of the meat is enhanced, because as the low temperature as the temperature decreases, what happens is the solubility of the oxygens will be increased. So the oxygen will go and combine with the myoglobin more efficiently. That will increase the formation of oxymyoglobin, or the bloom color will be formed. Here the surface of the meat became moist and unattractive. The meat looks more pale in color because water soluble myoglobin and the sarcoplasmic proteins will be washed away. So the color will also be very unattractive and it is pale in color. So what is the shelf life of the chilled meat? So if they take beef or mutton or Shavon, it is around 5 to 7 days at 4 plus or minus 1 degree centigrade. In the case of chicken and pork, it is only 3 to 4 days at 4 plus or minus 1 degree centigrade, because this will contain more unsaturated fatty acids, so there is a chance for rancidity. So under ideal condition of refrigeration, normally we recommend 4 days of storage. So anyway, this all depends upon the initial microbial loads. If the initial microbial loads is more, then the shelf life will be very less. If the initial microbial load is very less, it can even go up to 8 days in the case of beef, mutton and Shavon. In the chicken, it can go up to 5 days life. Okay, so that is it all depends upon the initial microbial loads and how much temperature we are maintaining. Many factors will be affecting. So let's see how the chilling is done or the freezing is done in the commercial meat processing unit. Okay, so after slaughtering, the carcass is chilled. So after slaughtering, evisceration, all this process, we get the carcass. The carcass is chilled, and the chilled carcass may go for the dispatch. Or the chilled carcass is kept in the chiller storage. So we do the aging and then it goes to the chiller storage things. Or the chilled carcass, after aging, the cutting and deboning and packing will be done. And the packed meat go to the, if you want to store for a short duration, say 3 or 4 or 5 days like, then it goes to the chiller room. If you want to keep it for a long durations, then it goes for the frozen room. So let's see the section of cold storage room. So once the animal is slaughtered, evisceration, everything is over. First we'll put in the carcass holding area before chilling. So all the carcass will be coming here. It will be holded here, because we will not be opening frequently. We will not open the chiller room or the offal rooms, because that will affect the efficiency of the chilling. So once some say 20 carcass or 30 carcass, it comes to this area, it will be opened and put in the aging room. The aging room temperatures maintained is around 10 to 15 degrees centigrade. We will not go below that one, because it can lead to cold shortening. And the offals normally it is stored at 2 degrees centigrade. So after the aging, say once the pH is reached around 6 or lower, then it goes for the cutting and deboning and packing. The cutting, deboning and packing rooms, normally the temperature maintained is around 10 to 12 degrees centigrade. After that, if you want to store it for just say 4 days or 3 days or 4 days or max 5 days like, then the meat will be kept in the chiller room, which is maintained 0 to 4 degrees centigrade. If you want to keep it for a long duration, what we do, we can do the plate freezing, where the temperature is around minus 20 or minus 30 like, then, or we can keep it in the blast freezers. After freezing, it goes for the frozen storage, which will be maintained less than 18 degrees centigrade, minus 18 degrees centigrade. Okay, it's not positive, it is minus 18 degrees centigrade. It is wrongly typed. So it's less than minus 18 degrees centigrade. That is the frozen storage. If you go lower and lower temperature, the shelf life will be extending, which I will be explaining during the freezing class. So coming to the regulation of the refrigerations, meat must be chilled immediately after post-mortem inspection and kept at a constant temperature of not more than 7 degrees centigrade for the carcasses and cuts, and for the offals it is 3 degrees centigrade. So for the carcasses it should not be more than 7 degrees centigrade, for offals 3 degrees centigrade. The cutting plant must have a cooling equipments in the cutting room to keep the meat at a constant internal temperature of not more than 7 degrees centigrade. Cutting plant must have a thermometer. During cutting, the temperature of the building must not exceed more than 10 degrees centigrade. Then in connection with the poultry, the carcass temperatures at any time should not exceed 4 degrees centigrade. The 4 degrees centigrade should be attained within 4 hours of slaughter. Immediate after 4 hours after slaughter, within 4 hours, the temperature should be reduced to 4 degrees centigrade. And for the chilled chicken, the temperature of the carcasses should be never more than 4 degrees centigrade. The Codex Alimentary Standards proposed for beef chilling called for a temperature of 15 degrees centigrade or lower at the center of the round. So round region means the leg region within 20 hours. Within 20 hours, the center of the round region should be reduced to 15 degrees centigrade. So this let's discuss a few questions generally asked by the entrepreneurs during their business, especially the small entrepreneurs. So what are the factors affecting the shelf life of the meat in chiller? One is the initial microbial load. So that is one of the important factors we have to take coming to the practical applications. We have to see the initial microbial load is very low. So we have to use a proper potable water which is having low microbial loads. Then proper cleaning of the animals, because the animal is the main source of contamination. So before going for the slaughter, the animal should be cleaned properly. Then personal hygiene should be followed. Premises hygiene should be followed, and hygienic practices. So good hygienic practices should be followed. So this, if you do all these things, the microbial loads can be reduced drastically. So the initial microbial loads will be less. So that will help to extend the shelf life of the meat or the carcass. Next is the chilling temperature. So for chilling, we have to maintain 0 to 4 degrees centigrade, and the air velocity is very important, because if the air velocity is less, the chilling rate will be slow. That is also favors the microbes. So the air velocity should be between 0.5 to 0.75 meter per second. The space between the products. So when you arrange in the chiller room, the space between the meat products or the carcasses should be proper, so that there is proper circulation of the air. Again, the size of the carcasses or size of the package, fat covering, etc. will be affecting the fat covering is more, the rate of chilling will be slow, because the fat is an insulator. Then type of meat. Okay, type of meat is also another important. For example, if you take the pork or the chicken, which is containing more of unsaturated fat, so that if it is having more unsaturated fat, it will leads to rancidity during the chilling. So that will also extend the shelf. That will also reduce the shelf life of the meat. Then the relative humidity. The relative humidity is more than 90 or 92%. Then it favors the microbial. It favors the molds and fungal growth. If it is less, means it will again leads to the moisture loss, which will affect the juiciness and texture of the product. So another question that I commonly come across is how to transport meat and meat products locally in the cheapest way. We can follow two things. One is using the ice. That is, you can put the in the puff box, put the meat, whatever the meat that you want to transport, and put the ice pack. Even the ice packs you can make by yourself. That is, put the water in a HDPE polyethylene bags, seal it and freeze it, and keep that ice pack so that the ice is not coming direct contact with the meat. So that will help to prevent the deterioration of the color and other things. So for short duration of transportation, you can follow that one, or you freeze the meat, then put it in the puff box and put the ice packs. That is another method you can do it. So we no need to need the refrigeration vehicle, because when you use the refrigeration vehicles, the cost of transportation is going to increase. Another, if you want to transport the carcasses, already I told the bulking method can be followed. That is, you put the layer of ice, then put the half carcasses. The carcasses in the case of beef, we will cut into 4 quarters, or in the case of pork means we cut it into 2 half. Okay, so you can put one layer of above the ice, you can put one layer of carcasses or 2 layer of carcasses. Again, above that, again you can put the ice. So that is called the bulking method of chilling, we can call. So that is another cheapest way you can transport the carcasses. So that will be useful for, say, transportation for around 4 to 6 hours. Beyond that, I don't recommend to go with the method, because it will lead to spoilage also. So another question that we come in is, what is super chilling of the meat? Okay, so this lot of research is going on this super chilling of the meat. So it is in the infant stage. It's also called as super chilling, partial freezing, or shell freezing. Here the meat is cooled to an initial freezing point. So we'll be, the freezing point of the meat is around minus 1.5 to minus 3. So we'll be freezing at that temperature, minus 1.5 to minus 2. Where 5 to 30% of the water will be frozen. So 100% of the water will not get frozen. So around 5 to 30% of the water inside the meat will get frozen. So we can see after initial surface freezing that 1 to 3 mm. So that freezing will take from the outer surface. So the cold air will be blown. Say in the case of freezing, it is around 3 meter per second. That cold air will be blown, and from the surface it will be stocking. So suppose this is the meat cubes. From the surface it will be starting. From all the surface it will be cooling. So here up to say 1 to 3 mm thickness, you can see the color changes will be there. Then if you check the core temperature also, okay, use a thermometer and check the core temperature. It should be around minus 1.5 minus 1 degree centigrade, the core temperature. So at that temperature we can stop the further chilling, and it can be kept in the frozen storage. So here you can see the ice will absorb the heat from the meat interior. So once the ice is formed here in the border, it will start absorbing the heat from the interior. Will eventually lead to an equilibration of temperature between the interior and exterior during food storage and distributions. So what is the advantage of this is that it improves the shelf life of the food by 1.5 to 4 times. For example, if you take the chilled meat, already I told the poultry, if you say it can be stored for 3 to 4 days. But when you use this super chilling methods, we can store it for around 13, 14, 15 days like. So we can extend the shelf life by super chilling. So let's see how it is done. Okay, once you harvest the meat, let it be chicken or fish or the beef or whatever it may be, once you harvested that meat, it is vacuum. We can do vacuum packaging or MAP packaging, modified atmospheric packaging. You do that packaging and cooling in a freezing tunnels. Then we cool in the freezing tunnel, say maintain at around minus 13 degrees centigrade. The air is blown around 2 to 3 meter per second. Once the core temperature is reached, so at the geometric center, so for example, if you take a cube like this, the geometric center will be, if you draw a cross line from here, so it will be approximately this area. You just poke it like this, is be the geometric center. That is the hottest point. Okay. So just put a thermometer in this prop thermometer and see the temperature. So once it has attained around minus 1 degree centigrade, then we keep in the cold storage. Cold storage, which is maintained around minus 1 to minus 3 degrees centigrade. So here it will be maintained properly, and you can distribute, you can store it, or distribution or retailing can be done. The main advantages of super chilling is that you can extend the shelf life to around 1.5 to 4 times than the traditional chilling method. So advantage of super chilling: maintaining the freshness, preserving the quality, increasing the shelf life. That's why I told 1.5 to 4 times you can extend the shelf life. Suppose I can store it for, in the traditional chilling, for 4 days, means I can by super chilling I can store it for almost 15 or 16 days like. Super chilling ensures that the products appear non-frozen despite the presence of ice in it. So we'll be able to maintain the quality, freshness and everything. Though we are doing the freezing, it appears to be non-frozen. Okay. The boon for meat industries, because by energy savings, because if you want to freeze it say at minus 18 or minus 20 or minus 30, like, cost of energy is more. As we go lower and lower temperature, the cost of storage will be higher. Here, the cost of storage can be reduced. That is the main advantages of super chilling. So thank you very much for listening to my class. Take care. In the next class, we will be talking about the freezing of meat and meat products. Thank you. Take care. God bless you all.